principles or some examples and apply them to Christianity, just methodologically gone. Yeah.
What about when he, I remember two instances, one when he knocked over everything in the synagogue because they were selling.
Yeah, that's actually the only example of
and
Christ.
The fig tree.
And?
The fig tree. He walked by the fig tree that was bearing no fruit, and he cursed it.
But it's the only, actually, this expelling these guys' money changers from the synagogue is the only example where he used violence, and it was violence, again, not to threaten somebody, to kill somebody, to harm somebody, but like to clean the holy place of God, you know, from actually people who harmed others with their actions. But you know, it's again, we have to look at the context, we have to look at the meaning of what it means, and there is no way to justify, you know, anything that would be a military intervention, any sort of violence, except, of course, there are some cases where we have a problem. For example, if you are exposed to an aggression, so like what you do then. You know, somebody attacks you, or and the problem there is not how we should respond and react as Christians individually, because the principle there is also Christ gave the principle. You know, like we shouldn't answer with violence to violence. It's not a Christian approach. The problem is when somebody attacks a larger community and you don't do anything. You're not doing will cause damage, somebody will be killed. And so there, you just have to do something. But even then, you cannot justify these actions from Christian perspective. You cannot say it's fine to kill people. It's never fine. Even if it's a reaction on the aggression, it's still sin. It's still a problem. So it's still something that we have to deal with. But we cannot simply justify it because human person is the most precious thing on earth, and each human person. So that's Christian approach, I think, at least Orthodox. And if we approach the world that way, so loss of any person on earth is a disaster. So and we shouldn't do that. Sometimes in this world, in this reality, imperfect, we have to deal with these problems, but we cannot just simply say, no, it's fine, like some theologians try to say. And there are, like, you know, the Orthodox world, a lot of people who try to invent something what they called doctrine of justifiable war, and to theologically back this kind of ideas. But in my view, it's not very fortunate approach.
I'd like to go back to the language issue, because I think that's really one of the clearly defining sort of concepts in Orthodoxy, that the church is organized around the language. The Armenians were the very first, after all, Orthodox group to organize, even before the Greeks did, the Byzantines did. When the Slavs joined the Orthodox world, they organized around language, basically. It seems to me that this is a fundamental principle in Orthodoxy. It wasn't in the Western Church, where language was uniformly Latin, as you pointed out, throughout the Western Church. It is, I don't see a way around this in the current organization of Orthodoxy, given its rather independent configuration of national churches. It seems to work well in the West now, where in the Roman Catholic Church you can have Spanish-speaking parishes and English-speaking parishes and Polish-speaking parishes in the same city, and yet they're all Roman Catholic and they're all the same. Is this not an inherent? Is not the national church really an inherent structure of Orthodoxy? I understand your theological point of view, but I think organizationally, I don't see a way around.
Look, I think it's not, because the principle is not nation and national criteria.
It's language.
It's language, but it's not even not language. It's a territory where certain people live, and yes, language, because for quite a long time, a very coherent group of people lived on a certain territory and used the same language. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, it's logical that you'll serve, in that language, because it's the language that people speak. But it's not the criterion. The criterion is that all Orthodox people from a certain region, certain place, they come together and celebrate the liturgy. So the language is side issue. You know, like it's yes, sometimes you use this language. If you have other people there, you can use their language. But like to say that we should only serve liturgies in one language in a certain place, it's just becoming impossible because the world is today very different from the world in the medieval period. And
how do you explain these inter-Orthodox rivalries, like between the Serbian church and the Macedonian church, or the Russian church and the Ukrainian church? I mean,
I can give you many more examples.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those are the ones I have.
Yeah. Well, actually, almost as far as I know, each local church has some sort of internal problems with some, groups. So again, all these conflicts, curiously, they have nothing to do with faith and liturgy and nothing like that. They have to do with politics and social problems and these kind of issues. So it's like there is nobody questioning any kind of dogmatic points or anything like that which causes these splits. It's in Ukraine it's a very complex situation. They have a lot of these Orthodox churches, and I think it's primarily political issue. The same is in Macedonia, and actually it's interesting to follow now these discussions when Macedonians accused actually Serbian Orthodox Church that the Serbs don't want to